Hello everybody, Cindy with Monarch Mom DIY here. Today I'm bringing you this tutorial on a simple chipboard scrapbook album that you can make. Here I'm going to do a flip through of the basic design and then show you how I made this. So we are going to use chipboard for the covers and the spine, and then it's going to have 6 of these signatures in it. Each signature will have a pocket that will have a pull out card that flaps down. I've added in a couple pockets here and there to hold some journaling cards. Here's our second signature with the card that is a flap as well. Our third one, so you have a page, a pocket with the card, and then another page. So each signature is made with one sheet of 12 by 12 inch scrapbook paper, and then we're using some white cardstock for the card that is folded and makes a flap in each pocket. We're going to walk you through this entire project. It's pretty simple to make. You will need some medium or lightweight chipboard, some double-sided scrapbook paper, and it is helpful if it has little journaling cards, but you don't have to have those. I'm also using some seam binding here for the tie closure for this album. So now that you've seen what we're going to make, let's get started with the tutorial. So for the base of our book, you're going to need 2 pieces of medium weight chipboard that measure 6 1/4 inches by 6 1/4 inches, and then a spine piece that measures 1 inch by 6 1/4 inches. Then you're also going to need 2 pieces of scrapbook paper or cardstock that measure 8 1/4 inches tall by 8 inches. We're going to put those right next to each other. They do not have to be double-sided. This is the back side and it will not be seen. We're going to be attaching our chipboard to it. So making sure those 2 pieces of cardstock are right together, we're going to put some adhesive on our spine piece, and then we're going to basically attach these 2 pieces of cardstock together by laying the spine across that space with the adhesive. Now taking our 2 square pieces of chipboard, I'm using score tape here to go around the edges of the chipboard, and then I will just use a tape runner to fill in the inside of each of the squares with the score tape. If you've never used score tape before, it's really good for making chipboard albums like this. You'll want to press it down and burnish it with a bone folder to make sure that glue gets into the fibers of the chipboard. Then you'll peel away the paper backing. You can see I did some tape runner there in the middle of the chipboard as well. Now I have 2 thicknesses of chipboard that I glued together that I use for spacing. So you're going to put that there and then lay down one of your squares. I put the spacing there so that our paper doesn't rip when you fold your book closed. All right, so we're going to do the same thing on the other piece of our chipboard. Fill it in the middle. This is just so we don't get bubbles in our cardstock for our cover. Peel off the paper backing and then use your shim to lay that down as well with the same spacing. Burnish it really well. So this floral pattern is what will be the outside cover of our book. Then the next thing you're going to do is we're going to trim the corners. Don't cut right to the corner of the chipboard. Leave a tiny bit of space, but I'm basically mitering these corners. This is going to help our chipboard be nice and flat when we fold it over. Taking your bone folder, I'm just creasing where we're going to fold the cardstock around our chipboard to make the cover of our book. Then taking my score tape again, I'm going to go around that outer edge of the cardstock on all 4 sides. And then we're also going to go around the outer edge again of our chipboard. Once you have all that score tape down, you'll go ahead and burnish it again with your bone folder. Notice on the long sides of the chipboard, I did go into the little spaces and made sure to press the score tape down. Now I'm just kind of training the edges of the cardstock, pressing it against the sides of the chipboard, and you can even use your bone folder to press it. We're kind of breaking up the fibers of the paper so that it doesn't rip when we fold it around the chipboard. Now, one side at a time, I'll take the backing off both pieces of the score tape and gently folding it down and pressing it as we go. You're going to get it nice and secure on your chipboard, pressing into those spaces as well. I like to do my two long sides first, and then I'll do the two shorter sides. And now that we have our cardstock wrapped around our chipboard, we can gently fold our cover shut. Now, before we line or cover the inside of our chipboard, we're going to want to lay our seam binding or our ribbon, whatever our closure is going to be, down on the chipboard. So here you can see I have the center of a piece of seam binding. I'm putting a good amount of tape runner there. It just needs to hold the seam binding until we get the paper that's going to cover the inside of our book cover. So put down some adhesive, stretch out your seam binding or your ribbon as close to the middle as you can get, and then we will cover the inside of our cover, and then that will hold the seam binding or the ribbon down. So now these two pieces are 6 inches tall by 6.5 inches wide. And we're going to lay these right in the middle on that seam that we already have from the outside of our cover. So you're just going to center that right in the middle. Make sure your seam binding or your ribbon is nice and tight and flat. And this is just going to finish off the cover of our book. Now take your bone folder, burnish it down, find those folds again with your bone folder and gently make those score marks into this paper that you put on the inside. So again, your book cover can fold. Now this piece is 3 inches by 6.25 inches. We're going to score it at 7/8 on each side. This is going to cover the spine on the outside of our book. We're not going to add this on until the very end. We're just getting the piece scored and folded. Now that we've made the outside of our album, we're going to make our Stack the Deck binding. So we're going to have 3 pieces that are 6 inches tall by 1 3/4 inches, 1.5 inches, and 1 1/4 inches. And for each of these pieces, we're going to score them at 1/2 inch on each side. So that first one was our 1 3/4 inch wide piece. This is our 1.5 inch wide piece. And the third one is our 1 1/4 inch wide piece. You can see that middle section or the gusset gets smaller and smaller. So once we get these lines scored, we're going to fold them over and press down with our bone folder, make them really nice and crisp creases. So this one has just a 1/4 inch gusset there in the middle. The second one will have a 1/2 inch gusset in the middle. And then our third one will have a 3/4 inch gusset. We are going to stack these on top of each other to create the 6 hinges for the pages of our album. You can see I'm setting them there inside each other, And once they're glued together, those will be the hinges that we will attach our 6 pages to. So here I'm taking the middle one. This has the 1/2 inch gusset on the back. I'm just putting some glue between the 2 score lines. And now I'm going to glue this to the center of our biggest piece. So the one on the bottom has the 3/4 inch gusset, and I'm gluing the 1/2 inch gusset right to the middle. You're only putting glue on the back side of the gusset, not on the flaps. Now I'm taking the 1/4 inch gusset piece and I'm going to glue that down to the middle of the 1/2 inch gusset piece. And once we get it all nice and even, that wet glue lets us move it around. We will set that aside to dry. Now you'll need 6 sheets of 12 by 12 double-sided cardstock or patterned cardstock. So these are the pieces I'm going to use for our book. And the first thing you need to do is cut that branding strip off so that each of your pages is a true 12 inches by 12 inches. So I'm going to do that on all 6 of my pieces. Now that we have all of our paper at 12 by 12, we're going to score each piece at 6 inches, turn it a 1/4 turn, and score at 6 inches again. So basically, you're dividing your paper in half each side. So we're going to do this to all 6 pieces. Next, we're going to fold on all those score lines and burnish them down either with your fingers or with your bone folder just to make sure they're nice and creased and we'll be able to fold on them. Now, taking your scissors, you're going to cut on that middle fold just to the center of the paper. You're going to split those 2 apart and the book is going to kind of fold on itself. So you'll end up with a page in the front. Show you here in a second, a page in the front, and then you'll have a pocket in the middle and a page at the back. Page, this will be a pocket, and then another page. Okay, so where this pocket's going to be, we're going to take a circle punch and just punch out a little half notch, and you can see that pocket is not glued shut yet. We're going to do that. So here again, we'll fold on our score marks, burnish it down so that we can really see those folds. And then opening it back up, I'm going to cut just on that middle fold away from myself, just to the center. Then spread those 2 pieces apart and they fold in on themselves. If it's not lining up perfectly, just go ahead and flatten it down with your bone folder. Again, this is where the little notch will be for our pocket once we glue our pocket shut. So go ahead and make that 1 cut and fold all of your 6 pages. Now that you have all of the 6 pages folded, you can kind of put them in the order that you want to see them in your book and then we'll move on to the next step for our 6 pages. And what that's going to be is gluing the right-hand side of our pocket. Okay, so that middle section is going to be a pocket where we did the notch. We're only going to run a bead of glue down the right-hand side because the left-hand side, we need to keep that open because that's what we're going to glue onto the hinge. And when we glue it onto the hinge, it will seal up the other side of the pocket. So here you can see now you have a page on the left, a pocket in the middle, once you glue that right-hand side, and then a page at the back. Now that we have our pages assembled, we're going to take our binding. We're going to double up the adhesive here. We're going to run one piece of score tape down the back. And then once we burnish that and peel the backing off of it, we're also going to put some wet glue on it. This is going to give us a few seconds to be able to slide it and get it in the middle of our spine. You can see between those two creases is where we're going to place this, and it should be the same height as that green paper that we attached on the inside. We want to get this nice and straight because these are the hinges we will be attaching our 6 pages to. So once our hinge binding is in there and it's dried, this is how we're going to attach. Right in that V on the left side of our pocket is what is going to slide onto each of those 6 flaps that are sticking up. So starting with this first one all the way on the left, we're going to put a little bit of wet glue on either side of the flap, making sure to not get it down onto the gusset or onto any of the other flaps. Then holding your pocket open, you're going to slide the page onto the flap. It will stop at the bottom where the folded paper is. You don't want to press it all the way down to the spine of the book. Maybe leave a tiny little gap so that your pages will turn freely in your book. Get it evenly, get it nice and straight. You'll have time with the wet glue, and just keep pressing the 2 sides of the pocket there onto that flap. And then you'll do the same thing for all the other pages, taking time to press them on really well and make sure they lay nice and flat and straight. And there is our book cover with all 6 of our signatures or page sections in it. And you'll want to make sure those are just pressed down really, really well until the glue is dry. Now, for the inside, to make those flap cards that are in each pocket, I'm taking 6 sheets of white cardstock. I'm trimming them to 4 3/4 inches on the 8.5 side. That is because when I measured the width of the pocket, not counting the glued edges, this is about the width that we'll be able to slide in and out of that pocket. Then on the 11-inch side, we're just going to score it in half at 5.5 inches. This is going to give us those 6 cards that we will have 1 in each of the 6 pockets. This is optional if you'd rather just make some photo mats to put in there. You don't have to do the cards. This is just something I decided to do for my album. Then just fold those in half. Burnish them down really well. I will end up using a decorative punch on the bottom edges, not the folded edge, just to add a little bit more decoration. Here you'll see I'm using this ticket stub punch that I have from We Are Memory Keepers. And I'm going to do that on all 6 of my cards. Next, I'm going to cut some pattern cardstock, 12 pieces that are 4 1/4 inches by 5 inches. And this is what I'm going to use to decorate the outside flaps of the card to just give extra space in your album to put some photos on. Then for the inside, I'm going to cut some journaling type pieces that are also that same size. These I'm just using craft cardstock, and I will do the ticket stub punch, of course optional, on the bottom corners as well. Now here's the inside of my first card. I'm taking the craft cardstock and I'm lining it up so that it has a nice even border. Flip it around and put the other side of the craft cardstock on. Then we'll turn it over and we'll do a couple pieces of a colored or patterned cardstock for the outside of our little card. Then you can take your card once it has all its pieces on it and stick it in the pocket with the flap either on the back side of the pocket or on the front. And then we'll do that for all the other cards as well. Now I'm going to need 2 pieces that are 3 inches by 5 3/4 inches. I'm just using 2 different pattern pieces here because I'm going to make a couple more pockets, one for the inside of the front cover and one for the inside of the back cover. So we're going to take our circle punch again and cut that same little notch at the top of each of our pockets. Then just running a bead of glue on each side of our pocket as well as the bottom. We'll go ahead and we'll glue that down to the inside of our front cover, making sure to press the glue down really well and make sure our pocket is straight. And then we'll flip to the back inside cover and do the exact same thing with our other pocket piece. Now that our album construction is complete, you can decorate it as much or as little as you want. A lot of the paper collections come with these 3-inch by 4-inch journal cards. I'm going to add some of them to the album and I'm going to back them with some white cardstock that's just slightly larger at 3 1/4 inches by 4 1/4 inches. These we can mount on top of the white cardstock, and then you've got space on the back either for a photo or for journaling. And you can add these to your album in the pockets or wherever you'd like. Next, I'm taking one of the larger journal cards from the collection. I'm going to double mat it on a couple of colors of cardstock, and then we're going to attach this to the front of our album for the cover decoration. Then the last thing you need to do is put some glue all over the back of your spine piece that we scored and folded earlier. And now that all your pages are in, you can just simply attach that to the spine of your album. Press it down really well so that the glue is completely adhered. And that is the final piece of your album. So then just another quick flip through. You've got a pocket that you can put some goodies in. The first signature with a page, a pocket with a card flapped out, and the back page. Here I just stuck a journal card for a pocket. The second signature with a card, page, pocket with a card, back page. Fourth page, pocket and page with a pocket on the back. Fifth page, pocket with a card and back page. And our last page with a pocket and a back page, and then a pocket on the inside of the back cover. So thanks so much for watching this tutorial, and thank you Lyric Lover 810 for the idea.